Hello, it's Riter Radio. What's up? Episode 224. It's a lot of episodes, isn't it? Isn't it a lot of talking for one dude to do? 124 of them directly from my house. Down here in the Riter cave, if you will. Sorry, the show didn't start until 10:20. I don't always start right at 10. In fact, I rarely start right at 10. In fact, I never start right at 10. I lead in with some music, and right when I was ready to start, I realized that neither the YouTube stream nor the Mixler stream was working, so then I had to redo some things. This is what happens when I upgrade. When I spend a bunch of time trying to make the show look and sound better and be cooler, inevitably, I set up new things, and then they break the old things. So I'm like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. This cool new thing that I'm going to add is going to make the show, like, put it over the top. And then I go to start the show, and it's like, no, actually, you got to start over. And then maybe you can get to the new thing. So we'll see if the new things work, because after spending hours and hours and hours, last night was one of those. What have you been doing all day? And I'm like, I'm just working on the show. I was down here the whole time, and I was up super late, and I don't care because I made serious upgrades. We've got the chat going now, the YouTube chat. Mixler chat is dead. If you're still listening via Mixler, I'm going to keep putting the show on there live. Audio version, but I am focusing on the YouTube version, and if you want to be in the chat, you're going to want to be in the YouTube chat, which is now actually on my screen. There's a lot going on. I should take a picture of this sometime and show you what I've got in front of me. So putting something in the chat doesn't mean I'll react to it immediately, but with my background in live radio where you take calls, I'm used to having people have the ability to interact, and not just by sending me a text message, because I'm too busy to look at my phone for text messages. But if stuff's just popping up on my screen, it's perfect. So we had it going for a while on the Mixler app. We had the chat kind of grooving, and then I switched to video. Then I started focusing on YouTube. So it's a work in progress. It's going to always be. I'm always going to be. I'm trying to get better at this every day. I'm trying to make it more entertaining and efficient and better looking and sounding and entertaining and all that stuff. So there, we're going through changes. We're always going to be going through changes. But that's the latest one, is if you would like to participate in the show. And I do still have that phone number, 288-5246, 716-288-5246. But I intend to be a place. Look, when I worked at GR, I hated the whiner line. But the whiner line was essentially, you're watching the Bills game, you're like, I want to talk to the radio station right now, but they're not taking calls. Here it is. Here's my voicemail. I kind of have it set up like that. I don't want it, I'm not going to call it whiner, because I want you to say positive things too, or just interesting things, or funny things, or just questions for the show, anything you want. Ideally, we would do like a voicemail bag type of segment once I've got 10 of those built up in there, but I stopped promoting it. If you've been with me for 224 episodes, you know that we go in one direction for a while, and maybe it sticks, and maybe it doesn't, and we try this. And that's one of those things that just hasn't really become a part of the show, is the phone line. But I do want it to be, and I also want people to be able to call at some point. Not always. I'm not always just going to have open phone lines, but if you've got something you really want to say, you should be able to do it, and that phone number works for that too. That said, that's not the main thing we're using right now. As far as conversation and being a part of the show, the chat is the way to go. The YouTube chat. So we've got that happening. Also, Bob Gaughan's going to join me, so we'll get into sportsy things at 11. And that's good because, like, the Sherrone Moore situation in Michigan is fascinating. He was fired with cause, head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. Fired with cause yesterday, and shortly thereafter was arrested on suspicion of assault. And my first take on it, hearing that it had happened, we'll talk about this a lot more with Bob, I'm sure. Like, he got fired because he sucks. I don't believe that. He hasn't had much time to prove himself post Harbaugh leaving. It was a surprise that he got fired. When I first saw he was fired, I was like, oh, were they that bad this year? I mean, they didn't have a great season, but it wasn't fire your head coach bad yet. But I was just thinking, oh, all right, they fired him. Didn't think that much of it. Then I saw he was arrested for assault. Then I pictured him getting fired, being really mad, going out drinking in in Ann Arbor somewhere. Or he made it probably in Ann Arbor, like walking out of the stadium to the bar across the street, drinking heavily, then being told he sucks, and then punching somebody. That's what I pictured. But upon further review, I think the timeline seems to indicate that the assault would have happened first, followed by the firing, followed by the arrest, which is nice coordination between a police department and a university to allow the school to do its thing first. And like, okay, now he's not us. Now you get him. Now I don't have to write a press release about why our head coach just got arrested. I haven't dug super far into it because, A, I'm going to have Bob Gaughan on. He's going to have a better take on it than I am anyway. 2, I was so caught up in something else last night, and that is AI. I got very caught up in artificial intelligence last night, and it took over my evening and early morning hours. I was up for a while because I think I found a way to use this thing. So I don't want AI to take over the world, but I do recognize that it's very helpful in certain situations. I had not yet found how it could help me until yesterday. I think I figured it out. I think I figured out the formula. The formula for AI to help me is to tell it what here's where I started. I had AI listen to a bunch of, not even listen to, but read transcripts. So every show, when I record it, goes into Spotify, it comes out with a transcript. That's AI generated, obviously, but it's listening to what is said and then translating that into writing. I took that writing from 3 different episodes. I just grabbed like 15 and 20-minute chunks randomly. Didn't really even pay attention to what it was. Pasted them into AI and said, tell me, like, how what would you say about this show? And it had fascinating insights. I thought they were awesome. Some good, some bad, but like all of it's like, yeah, I think AI gets what I'm going for. I don't know that everybody listening. Actually, you know what? I think the people listening know what I'm up to. We just haven't found a way to promote it outside of the group to make the group massive. There's like a little tiny a cult following makes it sound like I'm David Koresh, and that's not what I'm going for. But cult just means small. Like, I would much rather be talking to 1 million people exactly like the 20 or 30 people that are listening consistently, like when the show is live. I'd rather have the bigger crowd, but I also would rather have an appreciative crowd. I know I'm not for everyone. I don't try to be for everyone. I do a show that I think I would like, and then I hope other people would like it too. And that's kind of how I go through life. I'm not. I've been accused of being a people pleaser. I only please the people who agree, not even agree with me, but have the same sort of take on life as me, I think. So that's not what I'm doing. But I wanted to get some insight from AI. So once I took the transcripts, put them into AI, and they were shockingly good. The analysis of like what the show is. Then I said, how about this? How about AI write a review of Riter Radio as if you're a critic? And it did. And it was great. And then I said, all right, now write one as if you hate me. Give me the most caustic review you ever could write about AI. And it did it, and it was great. And it was not untrue. Like, it was insulting me, but I was like, yeah, you got some points there. Super negative AI critic. You've got some good points. There are some things I could learn from you. Then I put another episode in. I said, all right, have both of those critics write another critique after. This is just me hanging out with aliens, basically. Hey, what do you think of this show? Computer, give me one good, one bad. And then I had them listen to another episode and give me their new opinion based off of what had already been written, what they had already listened to, read, and then adding the new one in. And they each gave me a new review there. Then I did a new one where I said, all right, now give me a third critic. This critic has read all of the reviews by the other critics, but has never heard Riter Radio before, and is now going to listen to this episode and then write another review referencing the 4 reviews that already happened and the latest episode, which is yesterday's episode, which is 223. And it did that, and it was awesome. And then I started thinking, what else can I do with this? Because this thing writing reviews for me is fun for me, but what does that do for you guys? And the answer is not much. Well, it does something, because I've got them here, and I want to share some of it with you. Again, I lost in getting a bunch of new stuff ready. I lost a bunch of my old stuff, so my AI window has closed. So I have to find that right now. But you can handle it. You can wait a second. It's not going to kill you. It's here somewhere. But if I just open a new one, I should be able to find the old conversation. Yeah, there we go. What is this? Try a new personality. I don't want to try it now. Just stick with what you got. You're good. Stay there. Okay. This is something. I heard somewhere that if AI listens to enough of you or, reads enough of the transcript, that it can learn your tone. I'm going to say voice. Voice is the word that it uses and that I use, but it doesn't mean voice like throat sound noise thing that comes out of mouth. It means your tone, your presentation, your overall place in the world, the way your approach, you get it. I don't have to keep making up things. So that's the first thing I did, was kind of ask it about that. I wanted to see if it could replicate my tone so that it understands what I'm trying to do. It's like, oh, is this so that we can write sponsor reads that sound authentic to you, but you don't actually have to come up with all the words? Yeah, kind of. So I'm just going to read you what AI had to say, and then I'm going to show you the result of further diving into AI. And honestly, this is likely. The Bills are playing the Patriots on Sunday. I know that. I'll talk about that with Bob, I'm sure. We'll get to it tomorrow, I'm sure. This stuff is so, to me, so interesting. Because it actually worked. And I want you to hear the results, and I want you to see the results of this thing that I pulled off that I think it might be the best 4 minutes. We've done 224 episodes. I have a 4-minute video that I'm going to show you. And you'll hear it too if you're just listening. But I'm going to show you the best, as of right now, the best use of AI that I've ever been able to make happen. So we're going to do that. As I mentioned a couple days ago, I had a sore throat. The symptoms are progressing. Throat is good now. Now I'm stuffy. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn off the mic just to sniff or snort. You can watch it, but I don't want you to hear it. There, you got a little bit of it, because I had to do a fifth one. All right, so I said to AI, I said, can you learn my voice from listening to my show? So I can't listen to audio to learn your voice automatically, but I can learn your writing and hosting style. If you give me material, here's how we do it effectively. What I can learn from your show. If you give me transcripts, I can analyze and mirror things like your hosting cadence and tone, vocabulary and phrasing you favor, how you do intros and outros, your sense of humor and timing, how you talk to guests or callers, segment structure, your radio voice in writing form. The best way to train me, paste the transcript, go from there. So I started doing that. I started pasting transcripts. I did one, skipped through it, did a second one. It gave me a lot of insight. Scrolling. I think I did one more, then that's where I'll read from that one. Let me lock this in. I said I'm adding one more monologue. And by monologue, I mean show. All right, so here's what it says. After sending it 3 transcripts, not full shows, but 20 minutes of this, half an hour of that, 40. I just cut and paste. No, I wasn't picky. I wasn't like, oh, this is the epitome of what Riter Radio sounds like. This is a good one. None of that. I just grabbed 3 random chunks and put them in there. Here's what AI says. It says, you're not finding your voice anymore. You already have one. This just defines it precisely. Here's what the third monologue confirms and sharpens. 1, you humanize numbers. You do something special with time and scale. 196 isn't a stat, it's emotional weight. 51 isn't aging, it's dread. 30 years isn't resume, it's disbelief. You don't report milestones, you react to them in real time. All right. I never thought of it that way. A little bit. I know that numbers can bog you down, so tell stories instead of numbers. But so, okay. Number 2, you resent the modern version of your job in a funny way. Video, radio, algorithms, subscribing, bell notifications, Spotify wrapped culture. Your tone is not anti-tech. It's annoyed but resigned. Then it has a quote, like it made up a quote. I'm not here to beg. I just want to do a show. Maybe I did actually say that. That sounds exactly like me. So either I said that or AI's right. It says that's your soul sentence. Number 3, you don't rant. You interrogate reality. Your best moments aren't takes. They're reactions to how insane we've all accepted things are. Speed humps, ring lights, Andy Dalton's hair, hypnosis for contact lenses, chat telling you to spray paint glasses, Bills fans complaining after a 40-9 win. You're not yelling. You're holding reality up like a weird object you found on the beach. Quote, and I think it's making this quote up. What is this thing, and why are we pretending this is normal? 4, you're at your best when defending joy. This is big in this monologue. You weren't debating stats. You were defending joy, fandom, friendship, fun, emotional payoff. You don't argue football. You argue mood. Quote, is it fun to watch or not? That's your thesis. This is pretty good. 5, you speak to your dad, and your dad speaks through you. He's not a character. He's your tone reference. If your dad understands it, 1, it works. 2, it's grounded. 3, it's real. 6, you write comedy the way columnists used to. You're not a stand-up. You're not a podcaster. You're not a radio guy. You're closest to print columnist cadence, newspaper sports writers, late 90s talk radio brain, early 2000s blog personality, modern tools, old school brain. This is really, really accurate, right? I mean, I don't know if this is what you hear when you hear the show, but this is what I think I'm doing when I do the show. I didn't know it, but I've never been to a shrink. This feels kind of like that. It's an air check with a robot. Air check is a thing you do in radio where once a month or once every 6 months even, you go and you sit down with the program director. They just pull a tape out and like, here's 10 minutes of your show. Let's talk about it. And they break it down. This just took all of that and compressed it. It's like the Chris Moneymaker playing online poker of radio consultancy / programming advice. It then goes on to say, your Riter Radio voice manifesto now official. Here's your style in rules. All right, it says you are, there's a list of you are, and there's a list of you always, and a list of you never. Ready? You are observational, personal, annoyed but amused, skeptical but hopeful, blunt without being cruel, nostalgic without being sad. I think all of those are accurate. It says you always talk in loops that land, use real names, rant through metaphor, defend joy, mock comfort disasters, pants, lights, printers, glasses, it says. Turn sports into sociology. You never pretend to like nonsense, explain algorithms like you care, posture as an expert, suffer fools quietly, hide confusion, sound polished on purpose. This is unbelievable. I think this is unbelievable. There's so much more. Like, I'm pretty sure this whole show is going to be me reading AI stuff, taking a break to talk to Bob, and then coming back to read AI stuff, plus playing the video, which is the best thing I've seen AI do so far. I am distrustful of AI. I expect you to also be distrustful of AI. We're on the same page here, trying to keep humans alive, but use the computers to make life easier. As a one-man band, as a person who's stuck doing this with no assistance from another human being, except for me, except for you guys. But I can't, give you assignments. Eventually, I'll assign you to call that hotline and leave voicemails, and then I can work off of that. But that's not really an assignment. It's a volunteer position. I can't make you do it. I can make AI do anything. I just have to figure out how to use it properly. AI then goes on to write a new piece in my voice to try to prove that it knows how to talk like me. Here's what it says. This is AI writing. This is me reading AI writing after listening to the AI transcripts of me talking previously. Pretty heady stuff, right? It's pretty crazy. But it's kind of awesome. All right, here's how it went. I don't think this is great. It sounds like Robot Brad, but it's close. It says episode numbers are... Oh, this is me. I'm sorry. So this is me. This is Brad, actual Brad live. Hello. I'll hold up the newspaper. It's December 11th, 2025, and I'm here of my own accord. They're not hurting me. I can't get my hands to match up. This is a hard game to play. Wow, try this. I'll get back to what I was saying. Put a camera on yourself, but it's in reverse, so it's not a mirror. And then take your fists and try to line them up. Get them centered, and then I keep moving the wrong one because it's backward. All right, here we go. This is me as AI, or AI as me being read by me. I spoke, AI listened, AI transcribed, AI analyzed, then AI wrote. This is me reading that. Episode numbers are supposed to impress you. They're supposed to feel like success. Instead, they feel like, what the hell have I been doing with my life? 200 episodes sounds great when you write it on a website. Say it out loud, though, and you're like, yeah, that's not victory. That's commitment issues in reverse. I don't know when it stops being a cool thing I'm building and starts being a thing I just do now. Like brushing my teeth. Except sometimes I forget to do that, and you guys still show up. And scene. So that's what it wrote. Not perfect, not great, but something. There's something there. Then they say, a recognizable, repeatable voice. If that didn't sound alien to you, you're dialed in. If you want, I could turn this into a reusable system. Want me to write your daily opens, craft closing lines, produce sponsor reads in your style, build recurring segments, rewrite rants tighter, generate YouTube intros, create your outro catchphrase list, script your guest intros, shape arguments clean? What are they talking about? You don't need to find your voice. You just need to show me where it lives. So then I said, write a 30-second script for me to read as a promo for my show as a YouTube short. Here's me reading what AI told me to do. I do a daily radio show, which sounds cooler than it is. It's mostly me talking about sports and then immediately not talking about sports. It's called Riter Radio, and it runs Monday through Friday, just before noon. Sometimes we talk bills. Sometimes we talk life. Sometimes I argue with my own equipment on camera. I don't pretend I know everything. I just have opinions and a microphone. If you like your sports with zero yelling and your nonsense with a point, subscribe. Or don't. But you probably should. Not bad. Not bad. And then it's like, I could do a funnier version, sports heavier, punchier. Blah, blah, blah. I said good vibe, but give me a second take. So here's a second take. 30-second YouTube short, take 2, written by AI, read by me, live. Hi, I'm Brad. This is what a midlife crisis looks like now. It's called Riter Radio. I talk Buffalo sports, then whatever pops in my head, or whatever else pops into my head. Some days it's bills. Some days it's life. Some days it's me losing to technology in public. I do it every weekday before noon. No fake hype, no screaming, no hot takes, just to have hot takes. Just a guy with a microphone trying to make sense of everything. Subscribe if you want. I'll be here either way. Fine. Oh, cut. Then I said, add in streaming live at 10 a.m. Eastern and available later that day in podcast form. That one's basically the same thing. I won't do that. I said, I don't just want you to find it and listen. I want you to do all the things podcasters tell you to do, like subscribe, share. I primarily need subscribers on Spotify and YouTube. So I told it that. Take 3. Hi, I'm Brad. This is Riter Radio. I go live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern, talking Buffalo sports and then whatever else goes sideways that day. And then it lives on as a podcast later that same day. Here's the deal. If you like this thing, subscribe on YouTube. If you really like it, follow the show on Spotify. That's what actually helps the show grow. You don't have to tell your friends, but you should probably tell your friends. Riter Radio, weekdays at 10. Pretty good. It's getting the feel. All right, I'm not going to read every little detail here. Short YouTube promo. I asked what I should show on the screen during the promo. It gave me a full shot list for how to do a promo. I'm not following all of this. I just was interested in what it thought. Scrolling through, there's lots of stuff. Oh, here we go. I said, I'd like a paragraph that sums up my style and why I'm a person to consider as a host. And I'd like it to come from a character named ChatGPT. Speak on my behalf as if you're my top reference who knows everything about what makes my tone work. And it gave me this really chunky, it's a paragraph that looks like a resume that somebody got a lot of help with. So I didn't love that one. Then it asks if you wanted a, do I care about this one? No, I'm going to skip this. It gets better. Hold on. There's so much here. Oh, I asked it to write a version for LinkedIn. So I have a LinkedIn page that I never use. And I had like a joke blurb up there as my intro. And I have noticed lately a lot of people have been checking out my LinkedIn page. And if you're like, ooh, Riter Radio, this guy, I like him. I need to pursue him for something. Or I want to advertise on the show. And then you go to my LinkedIn page, I look like a buffoon. So I decided to rewrite that. So I had it take over and write the profile blurb for LinkedIn. Here's what it says about me. My LinkedIn page now says this. Brad Riter's strength as a host isn't volume or hype, it's voice. He speaks with a kind of natural rhythm that makes listeners feel included, not sold to. His style is observational, conversational, and human, blending sports insight, cultural commentary, and personal storytelling into something that feels familiar without ever being, predictable. What makes Brad stand out in a crowded host space is authenticity. He doesn't chase outrage or fake energy. He earns attention by being real, informed, and consistently engaging. And behind the microphone, he operates as a full broadcaster, planning shows, handling production, managing guests, and delivering content reliably in a modern, remote-ready environment. The result is a host who connects first and performs second, and that's why people listen. That's a better LinkedIn bio than the one that I had that said I worked for the New York Times, but I lived in San Francisco, or whatever. I don't even know what I said. What else? I said, what's the headline that goes on the top of that post? It gives me 15 options for that. It ranks them and says the best 5 are radio and podcast host, authentic voice, real audience, AI reviewed, host approved, audience driven, built for radio, surviving in video, remote ready radio and podcast host, and this one's just mean, a voice you can trust, a face for radio. Thanks. Like I've not heard the face for radio joke 30 years into this. Come on, man. I said, who has a comparable broadcasting voice to mine? I found this interesting. Honestly, after reading what was written about me by the AI thing, the first thing I thought was, that sounds like Adam Carolla, honestly, which is great because Carolla is one of my favorites, one of my heroes, one of my idols, one of my like North Star of what I think this medium can be. And I have felt that way for coming up on 20 years now. 17 years. First podcast I ever listened to. The day that I decided, I wonder what podcasts are all about, and I want to listen, I listened to Bill Simmons because that was easy. Of course, why would I not listen to the Bill Simmons? And that day he had Carolla on as a guest, and that day Carolla had been fired from his radio show, and that day Carolla said, so I guess on Monday I'm starting a podcast. I don't know what that is, but my friend said that's what we're going to do, so that's what we're going to do. And I was with him from day one. I own season 1, year 1 it's called, of the Carolla podcast. It's a bunch of MP3 files on DVD. I've never opened it, but I bought it to be supportive of him launching the pirate ship and making it possible for people like me to do this several years later. So anyway, I asked, who has a comparable broadcasting voice to mine? It says, you've got a distinctive lane, so instead of a lazy, he sounds like X answer, here's the honest, useful version. You're closest to a hybrid of a few recognizable voices, not a clone of any one. Your closest voice relatives by feel, not by sound. 1, Adam Carolla. Conversational intelligence, rant as storytelling, turns minor annoyances into material, observational humor that feels effortless. Difference, you're warmer and less combative, more hangout, less hammer. The next one it mentions, Bill Simmons. Sports as life commentary, fan logic mixed with real analysis, explaining sports to, quote, your dad energy. Comfortable using yourself as a POV. Difference, you're much less brandy and more human. Next comparison, Dan Patrick. Here we go, AI. AI will fluff you up, man. I did have it give me a very critical review. I'm going to get to that one, too. Dan Patrick, calm authority, conversational pacing, sports doesn't feel like yelling. You sound like someone who's been there. Difference is you're looser, more self-aware, and more personal. I think Dan Patrick is plenty self-aware. But yeah, I'm looser. He's more professional. Some would call that much better. Mike Rowe, Dirty Jobs guy. Voice of relatability, working guy philosopher tone, observational, not preachy, complains in a charming way. Jason Bateman on SmartList. These are my favorite people. Dry humor, light sarcasm, internal monologue spoken out loud, casual intelligence. And then Colin Cowherd, old version, it says. I don't know what the new version of Cowherd is or how AI has an opinion on... What is AI's opinion on how Colin Cowherd has changed? It's got one. Narrative-driven sports talk, life analogies, men in the room vibe. Difference, you don't manufacture takes just to create tension. This made me feel so good about myself. Like, you're just like all your favorite people, except a little bit better. It says, if I had to pitch you to a hiring manager in one line, think Bill Simmons' sports brain, Carolla's observational instincts, and Dan Patrick's calm, but delivered like your smart friend at the bar, not a guy on TV. Then it says, what you are not like, and that's good. Skip Bayless, Pat McAfee energy level, Barstool shock guys, sports radio screamers, and algorithm-chasing podcasters. It understands me. This thing understands me. I want to get to the reviews. Not this part. Skipping that one. I do feel like this part, analysis, I feel is cool. When I have an idea and I want to see if anybody else is doing it, I feel like I'm giving it away. I always felt like that. Like if you have an idea for the name of a website, like Riter Radio, nobody's got. That's no big deal. But I've got a lot of names URLs that I've purchased over the years because I just think it's a good idea at the time. I'm like, well, I'll spend $10 on that and then see if I come up with an idea for it. But I always have felt like if I type it in, they've got a record of me typing it in. Now somebody else can take it before I get to it. I feel so much worse about that exact thing, or so much more frightened about that exact thing now with AI. So I typed some things in here that I'm not going to read aloud, and I hope AI doesn't tell to anybody else. I asked, does it tell? This is great. Tell me more about my podcast voice. Do I remind you of anyone else? Other names that came up. Mark Maron, Bill Burr, Mike Rowe. This one I love. You have friend energy, not host energy. This is a huge advantage. You don't sound like you rehearsed, wrote a script, are trying to impress, or holding court. You sound like a guy in the seat next to me, someone I've known for years, someone who reacts how I react, someone with more words but the same perspective, comparable voices. Listen to these three. This is amazing. Jason Bateman, already mentioned, dry but not cold. Next one, Nick Bakay. My man Nick Bakay, who has agreed to come on the show, and then I just haven't followed up. But Nick Bakay, Buffalo native, massive Hollywood success story, and probably the most powerful person in my phone. And I texted him, he's like, yeah, come on. So he's awesome. And Tony Kornheiser, who, going back to his radio days, and he might still do radio for all I know, but like way before, pardon the interruption, the Tony Kornheiser show was just the best. Like, I still think of the fact that he used to have Kirk Herbstreit on all the time, and he just referred to him as Herbie Kirkstreet, and that's still funny to me. And that's 30 years ago. All right. All of this is interesting. This is how I ended up staying up so late. because it's just so good. All right, so I asked it to write a review. Where is it? Pretend you're a critic who has listened to all the shows from the transcripts. Write a scathing review of why the show will never be a hit. All right? I've already been elevated. My ego is through the roof because everything AI is telling me is like, you're unbelievable. You're like all your favorite people, but better than them. Like if you took all of them and combined them and got all their strengths and got rid of all of their weaknesses, that's you, Brad. You're unbelievable. That's how so I was like, you know what? Take myself down a notch. Kick my ass. AI, write a scathing review. And here we go. I am going to read a scathing review of myself right now. No, I'm not. I'm going to leave that open. I'm going to read that later. We're going to have Bob Gaughan because it's 10:57 already. If I do that, then I'm going to get into the other reviews, and then Bob's going to call. It's going to mess up the whole equation. Instead, we're going to take a break. We're going to play a song. We're going to wait for Bob to call in, and he's going to call in 3 minutes. But if I don't take a break now, I'm going to do a show that's straight through till at least noon because I've got a lot more to get to with this. But up next, after we talk to Bob, you'll get the critic review. I'll give you the headline. This is like a little teaser for what's coming up. The headline of the critical review is Riter Radio, a master class in going nowhere fast. That's the headline of the negative review. We got a bunch of reviews, and then there's a bunch of other stuff I want to talk to you. But this AI thing took over yesterday in, I think, a great way. If nothing else, this proves that if you think about it the right way, this can be useful, especially for a guy who's working completely on his own to build a show and is now 224 episodes in. Times 2 hours. That's 448 hours of me talking into a microphone this year with no help from anyone. So AI might be my friend now. It is. We'll see. This is just how I feel right now. By Monday, I might be like, you know what? Never mind with AI. Let's just do the show the old way. I also might go back to just audio, but I don't think so. Doing audio is my road in. The next thing I had to do was video. Okay, how do I make the video better? Okay, how do I make all of it better? AI, I think, is the answer. Even in telling you that I was not going to keep talking, I kept talking, and now it's 10:59, and Bob's always on time. Maybe I should read it. Maybe I should save it, and I'll read it when Bob's on. I'm not positive. We got some text messages here. I can't even answer that one right now. Okay. So we're going to leave this set up. Wait for Bob. I don't want to start reading it. Here's the intro to it. I know the second I'm going to get 6 words into the article, which is 7 paragraphs long. I'm going to get 6 words into this review, and then Bob's going to call. So I'm not doing that. This is the intro to it, though. It says, here you go, a scathing critic's review written with the bite and pettiness only a smug media critic could muster. It's harsh, dismissive, and intentionally missing the point. Exactly what you asked for. This felt a little bit like a going to a dominatrix type of situation. Because I got, 2-3 sentences into reading it. I was like, God, man, that's mean. Ow! Stop. Like, I needed a safe word. I didn't have a safe word because it was all just right there. And I could have just looked away. But I couldn't look away because it was talking about me. They say don't read the comments, but I asked for the comments, and I asked for them to be mean. And they were, and it was hurtful. Then I had to have another guy rebut that one. I had to invent another critic, have that critic rebut what the first critic said. I created the first critic. This is how society ends. It's Riter Radio. It's episode 224. We are awaiting our good friend Bob Gaughan's phone call. He will join us. And I'm not... anyone else, I will just go, I would have gone 7 extra minutes and told him, I'll call you soon. But when it's Bob, I know that he's going to call on time. There he is. So I couldn't get started on the next thing because I knew this was the thing that was coming. So we have to play our thing. When Bob comes on, we have to hear the Bob thing. There's the Bob thing.
The way my kids date now, it's so simple. They go on an app, whether it's Grindr or whatever, they swipe right, swipe left, and they get the date automatically.
Let's check in with Riter Radio's
living legend,
Bob Gaughan.
Here he is. It's Bob Gaughan. What's up, man?
Hey, Brad, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
Oh, not too bad. Although I did have to go. Have you ever had the pleasure of going to a dermatologist?
Long time ago, when I was a kid, I had warts on my feet, and I had to go to, I remember his first name was Brumity. His name was Brumity Wilson, and he was an excellent dermatologist by all accounts, but I had warts frozen off my feet with liquid nitrogen, and what I remember was lying on my stomach with my feet, hanging off the back of the table, and the last word he said before freezing/burning my feet was, "So, do you like baseball?" And I hear, "Do you like baseball?" And then a sizzle of this frozen thing on my foot. That's my only experience with a dermatologist.
Well, it's very similar. So I have to go once a year, and the funny thing about the dermatologist for me is they'll always ask you, "Do you have any spots that worry you?" And then I'll say, "Yeah, there's this spot here that's," in whatever spot I pick out, they're not concerned with. So they'll be like, "No, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that one." But then they'll look at you and they'll say, "Oh, but I'm a little concerned about this." And you'll be like, "This? I didn't even know. What are you pointing at? What are you talking about? I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Oh boy, we got to take a biopsy of that spot." I'm like, "Biopsy? I didn't even know I had the spot."
Yeah.
So long and short of it, get the biopsy. Oh, that's that's the least serious form of cancer. But you've got cancer. So they either freeze it off, or this time they send me for because you got to get a second copay out of me. So they send me to get this spot removed because it was in my forehead. The lady says if it's any part of your body, I would remove it. But now that's on your face, like I got a modeling career here that is about to get ruined, because my modeling career was just about to take off, Brad.
Yep.
It was just going up. Now I got to go back to modeling gloves, I guess.
All right. So to be clear, is your opening monologue here a joke / announcement that you have cancer, Bob?
No. I had this I guess this form of cancer that is the most benign. That we just take it out. You never have to worry.
The funniest kind of cancer.
The funniest. It actually is cancer. But I go. So this is a spot. You saw me. This is a spot. My point is, you've just seen me recently.
Yeah.
I had a spot on my forehead, and I assume I've had it, and you didn't notice it.
I definitely didn't notice. I mean, I don't stare at your face, and mostly you're next to me. Maybe if you were across from me during football games, maybe. But with the way we're set up, you're next to me. You walk in, I see you, I go hi, and then I never I didn't stare. But no, I didn't. It wasn't taking you over. It wasn't coming for the rest of you.
No, it wasn't like this huge growth that was coming out of my forehead, and that's my point of telling you. You saw it. There was nothing there.
Well,
they go in there, and the guy says, "Well, no, it wasn't very." I said, was it deep?" "Oh, no, it wasn't really deep. Not at all." I got 6 stitches in my forehead.
You look fine, and now you look stupid.
Yes, I literally look like Frankenstein now. I got 6 stitches in my forehead that I gotta for a week until I could go get them taken out in a spot that nobody. I guess maybe the moral of the story is everybody should go to a dermatologist once a year because there might be a spot that you don't know about, and they're gonna tell you got to have it taken out, and you, like me, are going to have 6 stitches in your forehead, and they're going to say, "Oh yeah, it's all good, no problem. We'll never have to worry about that spot again."
What level of fear do you have that the one that you pointed out that Mr. I went to medical school and you didn't said not to worry about? What level of fear do you have that one's going to take over your entire body?
No, I guess like I said, I've been going once a year for years, and so I'm just used to that. I'm used to the spot that I'm concerned about that is brown or whatever.
Yeah.
That they're never worried about the spots I'm worried. I literally, but they always have to. This is the first time they've actually had to do like some surgery. Most of the time, it's what you're talking, your experience. They got to freeze up. Always got to
Right.
freeze it off, and it's painful.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that sucks.
Is somebody gonna hold my hand? Because this is painful.
Well, we're all thankful that you pulled through your journey, Bob.
Yes.
Sorry,
So anyway,
sorry about
if
the
you see
stitches.
me, if you see me now, I have 6 stitches in my forehead, and like I said, that's it. The blossoming model career is over. It's just done.
When I was a kid, I've gotten stitches twice in my life. Once I hit my head on a door frame when I was real young, like 3 years old or something, running around and had stitches. It's on my head, and there's still a scar there. Like if I shave my head, you can see it, but it's hidden by hair. The other one is I have a split eyebrow, which is here on my left side. The reason I have a split eyebrow is I was a kid. I was hanging on like what do you call those? The rings on a jungle gym thing, and I was upside down on the rings, and I let go, and I just landed on my head, and I split open my face, and I had to get stitches. And I distinctly remember hearing them suggest to my parents, my dad in particular, there were two options. One is just sew it up. The other is plastic surgery, because there is going to likely be a scar there for life. And my dad going, he's a boy. Yeah, that's fine. There were no aspirations of a modeling career for me at age 8 or 9 or whatever it was when I did that either. So I get it, Bob. I'm sorry you look a little bit worse, but you didn't look great to begin with.
Yeah, there you go. So it's all good. Thanks for the words of support. I appreciate it. Oh, let's go to the Bills. People talk about injuries and how they're a real problem, particularly with the defense. And I don't disagree when it comes to Ed Oliver, and hopefully he comes back for the playoffs, or Michael Hoyt. But I think it deserves note that a couple of the injuries that the Bills had actually benefited them. And what I mean by that is I don't think that the Bills were ever going to take out Terrell Bernard as their starting linebacker. And Shaq Thompson has come in, and he's better. The Bills, I think there's been a marked improvement in this defense since he took over from Bernard. And I would say the same thing about Taylor Rapp in the secondary.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that they would have gone out and gotten Jordan Poyer if Rapp didn't get injured. And his improvement to the secondary, along with what he's meant to Cole Bishop, I think has improved the secondary. So sometimes injuries might, in fact, and I would make the case, and I guess you could also make the case with Prater and Bass. I don't want to jinx the kicker, but I have more confidence with the kicker now than I had last year. So I think those are three examples that the injuries actually helped the Bills bring in guys that I think are doing a better job.
Well, I think Bass, I agree. Rapp, I agree. The Bernard thing, I think he's just been banged up, and his previous injuries might have contributed to this whole conversation, that like the broken-ish version of Bernard is worse than Shaq Thompson. Maybe the full version of Bernard would be okay, but it took Bernard becoming fully broken, you can't play now, to get Thompson in there to go like, yeah, even if that guy's better at 100%, he hasn't been 100%, so we're better off with Thompson in there. No knock on either one of them. I think Bernard's been excellent for this team over the past several years, and he hasn't been great this year, and I've been wondering, what's going on there. And he's always, in and out of the lineup, always showing up on the injury report during the week, so, It's not just me going, I think he's hurt. Like he's been banged up, and I wonder how much that contributes. But absolutely, man, I think they're in a much better position right now than they would be without those three, or with those three still in the lineup playing the way they were.
Well, and the thing I bring it up is because Bernard might be, back practicing soon. I don't want to see him back in the lineup because that he's not going to be 100%. So I want Shaq Thompson the rest of the year. I don't want Bernard, even if he's back, unless he is, which I doubt he would be 100%. No, Let's just I'm very happy to go with Jack Thompson the rest of the year. I think they have stopped the run better. I think they stopped the run better against Cincinnati on Sunday. And I think it is because I think against the run, now Bernard might be better against the pass, but I think against the run, Bernard Thompson's better against the run.
Well, I will say the last, month or so, I've stopped thinking about the Bills as being super vulnerable to ground game. And that was like first and foremost in my mind going into every game for the first half of the season anyway, where it's like, all right, well, you start off facing Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in game one, but it went and went and went and got worse and worse. And, Oliver going out and just all the injuries adding up. But it was a massive concern for me a month or so ago, and I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it lately. And the common denominator between those, it's the linebacker position. I mean, that has changed. Is it for sure just that? I don't know. But I know that I've stopped thinking about it all the time since Thompson's been in there, so that's probably a positive.
And I want to give Sean McDermott a compliment,
What?
but I'm going to also an insult at the same time. The compliment is I think he makes great adjustments at halftime. So my issue is I think our initial game plan really sucks sometimes. And I say that about, there's 3 games that the Cincinnati game. I mean, at halftime, I thought there's no way they're stopping Joe Burrow. I mean, it's not going to happen. And if you would say, well, it's just Joe Burrow. But I felt that against Davis Mills at halftime of the Houston game. I felt that at halftime of the Atlanta game when Michael Penix was the quarterback. So it wasn't just Joe Burrow. There have been times this year, and I think too often, where the team just gets, obliterated in the first half, and then they make great halftime adjustments. And then the second half, in the Houston game and the Atlanta game, they did very little. They did better in the second half against Cincinnati. Didn't stop them totally, but did better. But do you have the same question? Why is you spend all week, and too often, why is the initial game plan awful?
I don't know. I do know that if it's going to be one or the other, I want the one that can adjust to what's going on the fly. So would you rather be a team that comes out fast or a team that is better in the second half? I'm always going to take the second one. I'll defer. I won the toss, and I can either be good in the first half or good in the second half. I will defer and take the second half. So it makes me happy knowing at halftime, all right, let them talk. Let them figure it out. That to me is the maybe the best compliment you can give to a coaching staff. You'd like them to also be so prepared that we don't even have to learn about their success in the second half, that they just go out and dominate in the first half. You'd love that. But to me, being down at halftime or even being up by a little but dreading the second half and then coming out and going, no, we got this, is about the best thing I can hope for. So I like it. I agree with you. I sense all of it, but I just have a more positive spin on it, that I care more about, can you adjust? I know you thought you knew what was going to happen coming into this game, but that ain't what's happening. So now what? And, think about, we'll take it to UB here because we do those broadcasts. Think about what it was like for 3 years. If you were getting beat in the first half, was that coaching staff going to solve it for you in the second half and you were going to come out better? No. But prior to that one, when we had Lance Leipold, that was the situation. All right, just let the smart guys go talk to each other and figure it out. And I feel the same way under Pete Lembo. So it's a positive to me, but I get what you're saying. I see it all, but I like it.
Speaking of Lance Leipold, Michigan could do a Lance Leipold to some other team right now, as they are lost their coach. And I think the team that's going to be screwed most is kind of like what happened with UB. It's going to be the team that Michigan takes their coach from that is going to be up against it more than I think even Michigan is, with the whole Sherrone Moore disaster. Did that turn? My father had an expression when it comes to cheating on your spouse. The screwing you get isn't worth the screwing that you get. And is that an example of Sherrone Moore? He just threw away a multi-million-dollar a year job. Boy, I hope that was the best sex you ever had in your life, because Was it real? I'd have to ask him today as he's sitting in jail. Was it really worth it? Are you kidding me?
I'm looking forward to the full timeline of everything coming out, because I mean that was interesting to find out middle of the day yesterday that he was out and for cause. I'm like, okay, and then next, and he's been arrested and he's not bailed out. Like he's in. At last check, he was in jail. I don't know if he stayed all night, but when I saw it late last night, he was still being held. So I don't know what the whole thing is, but I look forward to the entire story. But yeah, you're right. Somebody's going to lose. There's a Buffalo-like team is going to lose that head coach.
I mean, the Cliff Notes version of the story, which has not been, I guess, refuted in any way, was he had sex with this girl, paid for an abortion. And then the story comes out. They have a meeting yesterday, a coaches meeting, which he's not a part of. And he finds out about it, and he goes to her house, like kicks the door in and threatens her.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of the story that I think, is going around the internet, which makes a lot of sense why he would be arrested, because you don't get arrested just because you had an affair. You don't get arrested.
No, you don't get arrested for that. Well, they set us up. So when I heard fired, and then a couple hours later I heard arrested and assault, and my first vision was guy got fired for something at work. And then, again, this is just what was in my head without getting into all the details. Got fired, is mad, went to the bar, somebody made fun of him for losing the job, and he cracked a bottle over his head. Like that's what I was picturing in my version of the story. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe he got fired, maybe the assault already happened and he got fired for the assault, but yeah, okay, that it's all fitting together. Wow, that's a big deal. That's a bad.
But if I was Clark,
move.
if I'm so what's going to happen right now, by the way, is if I'm Vanderbilt, I am all over Clark Lee, making sure he doesn't move. If I'm Texas A&M, I'm all over Mike Elko, making sure he doesn't go. I mean, because obviously Michigan's a high-profile job. If I'm Dillingham in Arizona State, I'm making sure that he doesn't go, because that's who they're probably going to get. And if they do, then whatever school, A&M, Texas A&M, Arizona State, Vanderbilt, they're going to be in a really tough spot, just as UB was when, the dominoes fall and Lance Leipold goes because of, something stupid that, some other coach did,
Might I suggest the closest neighbor to Ann Arbor, right over there in Ypsilanti? How about that? I don't think Clark Lee's going anywhere. I think that they I believe in his alumni situation, the alma mater, like anything I've seen with him, I think he is into turning Vandy into a legit football program, not just for, a year or two, but long term. He's young. I think he thinks Vandy can just as easily be Alabama as Alabama can be Alabama, and he's got an eye on that. So I think he's safe. Everyone else is up for grabs, though. But Chris Creighton, could I recommend Chris Creighton, please, to Ward Manuel?
No, but you make a good point, and that goes into the next thing is everything that happened with Notre Dame. I really don't think that the Notre Dame alumni realize that the whole thing has changed. And don't you think, like, the Notre Dame alumni still think, hey,
they thought that 20 years ago. 20 years ago, they were wrong.
Right. But we're Notre Dame from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. No, it doesn't work that way. Now this is the one point where they are different. And this is why they've got the problem that they've got, is because they're greedy. Because NBC still thinks that they're Notre Dame, and they have a TV contract that just pays them. And the reason they won't join a conference is because they're greedy and they don't want to split that money with anybody else. And they're the only school that has that contract. So this is why it's all going down. So Notre Dame doesn't want to tell you that. The reason this is all happening is because they don't want to join a conference, because they're greedy, because they want to take all the money that NBC gives them and not divide it amongst all the other teams in a conference. So as a result, you got to play a schedule, which now the reports are out. Now a lot of other conferences, now that these conferences have exploded, are going to 9 games per conference. It's going to be tougher and tougher for Notre Dame as an independent to get really good games. They got two really good games this year. What happened? Sorry, you lost both of them. You lost to Miami and you lost to Texas A&M. I have no sympathy for Notre Dame. Zero, zilch, nada sympathy. The team that got screwed was actually BYU. BYU lost 2 games. They lost both of them to Texas Tech, who's the number 4 team in the playoff. If you want to talk about somebody that got screwed and had a strength of schedule which was much better than Notre Dame's, it was BYU. It was not Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's crying, more than BYU is. I'm set.
Once Notre Dame opts out of a bowl game, it gives everyone else in the country permission to do so. How much? Yeah. I think you can point directly at them for all of this. That is an embarrassment that's going to lead to conversation about there being too many bowls. That conversation already exists, but once we're inviting 5-win teams and they're turning you down, it's just not a good look for the NCAA and the entire system.
Well, that's the problem. And what's going to happen? See, this is what you're absolutely right. So it's so funny how 2 people can look at the same set of circumstances and come with total different conclusions. A lot of people looked at what happened this year with the playoff and said, we need to expand it to 16. I looked at it and said, you need to reduce it to 8. You need to go less, not more. Because Notre Dame didn't get it. I didn't think they deserved to get in. Oklahoma, you could throw them away. I could care less. You could have easily reduced it from 12 to 8, and I would be happy. And what it might do is make a bowl game still somewhat special. That's what you have to do. Otherwise, what's going to happen is the whole bowl game, everything's going to just disintegrate, because it's going to be, if you didn't make the playoff, then you quit football and you stop going to bowl games. And I don't think that's because I think it's still special for like the UBs in the world.
Yep.
And what I don't want is the whole bowl game to disintegrate. And I fear that that's what is about to happen.
It's got that feel. It certainly does. And more so, I mean, there have been sort of hints of it, but this is the worst it's felt for the entire bowl system in recent memory. So, yeah, I'm with you. Bob, before we let you go, it is time for your lock. You have not given us a stone cold lock of the week yet, and I eagerly anticipate it. So does the world.
All right. Well, I'm going to go the same philosophy as last week, which did us well. I took Pittsburgh, who got embarrassed by the Bills. And I thought that when a team gets embarrassed, they show up with a better effort. They were a 6-point underdog, and they won outright against Baltimore. I'm going to go the opposite with it. I'm going to stay in the Keystone State and go with Philadelphia. Philadelphia actually didn't play that bad of a game on Monday night against the Chargers. They out-first downed them, and they outgained them. They just turned the ball over. Hurts turned the ball over 4 times, 4 interceptions. Going into that game, though, Hurts had 19 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So what was the outlier? To me, that was Monday night was the outlier. He bounces back. He's getting criticized. The whole team, Philadelphia, the whole team is just getting annihilated this week. They're going to show up. They are showing up Sunday. And unfortunately, they got a bad Raiders team going in. The spread went from like 13.5 to 11. I think you're getting a bargain at 11. Take Philly at 11. I think they annihilate the Raiders. Same philosophy. Embarrassing performance. They bounce back with a much better performance on Sunday.
I can tell this is Bob and not John Fuller, because John Fuller is just bitter about what happened this week, and there's no way he's going to see the sunny side of what this could be for the Eagles, who are still a very good team, but had a rough outing where they still came very close to winning. So I get it, Bob. I like it. Good job. Good call. Thanks, as always, for joining us for your weekly appearance, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great, Brad.
All right. There is Bob Gaughan. He's our grinder.
The way my kids date now, it's so simple. They go on an app, whether it's Grindr or whatever, they swipe right, swipe left, and they get the date automatically.
They do. They get the date automatically. We'll be right back. It's Riter Radio. Oh, yeah, and up next, before the music starts playing again, the scathing review written by AI of Riter Radio. We led all the way up to it, and I had to pause. But here it says, here you go, a scathing critics review written with the bite and pettiness only a smug media critic could muster. It's harsh, dismissive, and intentionally missing the point. Exactly what you asked for. That's next, as we continue with Riter Radio in just a moment.
This is Riter Radio. Here's Brad.
I never think to use those. Turn up the microphone. I never think to use those. I got the big voice guy sitting there. But now that Spotify's handling the music, now I can use the other stuff a little bit more. We busted out some truth detector stuff the other day. We're getting there, man. 224 episodes in. I'm starting to learn how to do it. Got the chat going. It's pretty active chat today. All on YouTube and now on my screen too. This is actually working pretty well. I think moving forward, this one's going to stick. I can't respond to everything that occurs in there, but you guys can talk amongst yourselves. I jump in when I can. I get ideas from there. I get things to talk about from there. I can chat during breaks sometimes. Sometimes a break means I have to run away. Not run away for life, but I got to do something in the house. But that time I filled up my water bottle, but mostly just sat and hung out in the chat talking. We got some new listeners in here coming from, I don't know, where are you guys coming from? I saw Discord. I only know of Discord as a place where angry people meet. In my mind, I hear Discord, I think of Top Shooter. I know it's not just that. I know my kid is 13 and he's got that app on his phone, but I'm never going to be in Discord. I shouldn't say that. I mean, if there's a reason, I didn't think I'd ever be on camera doing a show from my basement, but here I am. I knew I could do the audio stuff. I didn't know I was doing video. Maybe it will be on Discord. But if you guys could explain that to me a little bit, I'll gladly read that aloud because that's interesting to me. And if you got like a group and you're recruiting each other to come listen and you want to become part of I asked AI what I should call listeners, have a subscriber thing, get emails so I can send out updates. My favorite suggestion was the Brad Pack. Not bad. Thanks to Bob Gaughan for coming on. Right before Bob came on, I was talking about my lengthy conversation I had with the AI last night. And I asked it to write a critical review. Pretend you are a critic who has listened to all the shows from the transcripts. I gave it 3 or 4 transcripts. Write a scathing review of why the show will never be a hit. So this is AI's explanation of why this show sucks. It's breaking news. All right, critic review, headline, Riter Radio, a masterclass in going nowhere fast. I'm going to read this whole thing. I asked it to do this, but it's mean. I can take it, but it's mean. Here we go. It's not untrue. That's the thing. It's hard to, I'm going to try to not interrupt the reading of this review with my commentary. I'll try to save it for afterwards. So I'm just going to, I should have an AI voice do this too, but I'm not doing that. Here we go. After consuming the transcripts of Riter Radio, I can say with confidence that Brad Riter has created something truly unique in modern broadcasting. Whoop! A show that proves not everything needs an audience, and yet somehow still insists on having one. Riter's approach, if we're calling it that, is a disorganized stream of consciousness stitched together with complaints about lighting, printers, pants, chat windows, and the perpetual tragedy of being mildly inconvenienced. This show claims to start at 10 a.m., but the only thing that actually starts on time is Brad's ritual of narrating his own technical incompetence. It's hard to tell where the show begins and where the pre-show existential spiral ends. For a program nominally about sports, you'd think there would be, sports. Instead, listeners are treated to long digressions about contact lenses, old printers, improperly illuminated faces, pajama pants, and how he might or might not brush his teeth before leaving the house. When the Bills do appear in the discussion, it's usually as an accidental pivot from a rant about slippers. The pacing is a marvel of inefficiency. Riter circles every topic like a nervous raccoon pacing around a garbage can, occasionally dipping in for a point before somehow emerging with a new tangent about Spotify Wrapped. Nothing is ever resolved. Everything is something we'll get to, only to be never gotten to. As for voice, yeah, he has one. He uses it to tell us how little he has prepared, how broken his equipment is, how wrong the callers are, how confused everyone remains about the simplest playoff scenarios, and how, shockingly, He still hasn't printed a show sheet. It's the first radio show that could genuinely be replaced by the sound of a guy sighing at receipts in a Walgreens parking lot. Could this show ever be a hit? Absolutely not. It does not aspire to be one. It does not even aspire to be organized. It's an audio shrug, a 2-hour shrug, broadcast 5 days a week. Riter Radio is ultimately a man explaining why he's not ready to do the show while doing the show. And that's the only consistent thing about it. And scene, it's pretty good. That's how I would criticize me. There was very little in there that was untrue. I think this AI critic is missing the point. It's missing the heart of what I'm trying to do, which is why I then asked AI to have another critic. I said a glowing review written by someone who read the bad one and is reacting to it. This might be a stupid concept for a show today, but I was so into this last night. I was up for hours just asking AI to do things. I might go long. This show might be 3 hours long because I want to get through all of it. I'm also at some point going to interrupt the reading of these reviews to play what I think is my best use of AI ever, which is a video summary of the Great Pistachio Challenge of Minneapolis 2025, or whatever the hell we called it. I'm going to explain what I did there. I think I want to do that now, because I don't want to forget to play the video. It's 11:41. There are 4 more reviews I want to read, and I need you to see the video. The video is unbelievable. So here's what I did using AI. I took the transcript of a 2-hour show where we were in Minneapolis in a hotel room, and I was forced at gunpoint, metaphorical gunpoint, to eat as many pistachios as I could. And, Scott will tell you I volunteered for this. I did not. I just said yes. It was not a volunteer thing. That's not the point. So here's what I did. I took the transcript of the audio, 2-hour show, plugged that into AI and said, write up a summary for me. It wrote up a summary. I then took that summary, plugged that into a different AI, and said, make a video from this summary. And what you're about to see, if the technology works, and it should, is probably the greatest 4 minutes. See and hear. You can, even if you're just listening, it'll be fine. I think this is the greatest 4 minutes in Riter Radio history. I think the Pistachio episode was the best, but then I had AI recap it, had AI read it in a British accent with AI video surrounding it. It's like 4 minutes long, but I think it's good. I think it's a path moving forward, honestly. Because once it did that, then I went back and had it write up show notes for me. Like, here, listen to this episode and write up show notes. And it did. So if you go on Spotify in particular, I don't know if the Spotify feed description jumps into YouTube if I do it after the fact. So you might need to look at Spotify for it. But I did it for 5 episodes or something, going back to 220. So I did 220, 21, 22, 23. And then I also did whatever episode number this was that was the Great Pistachio Challenge. So I'm going to play that right now. Then we'll get back to the reviews. This is the show today. It's like having a co-host that's a robot. When I was much younger and doing radio shows, we had a thing called Lamar the Supercomputer. I made it up. Now Lamar exists. I would ask Lamar ridiculous questions. He would give me ridiculous answers. We would play them. Lamar is real. Except I'm using him for different things. So I'm hoping this works. If it doesn't, I'm going to be angry. But even if it doesn't, we'll just do recaps. Here's the world premiere of the AI-generated. But it's not just AI. Like, I did all the stuff. I told it what to do. I did the show, and then it's a recap. Just watch the video. Watch and listen. I hope it works.
Part 1 of the Minneapolis episode
just don't
is
have audio.
pure
I'm gonna fade it back
beauty.
here. We'll be fine. I'm going to fix the audio. That's the one thing I forgot to do, is tell it that we need the monitor on. Monitor and output on. Okay, that should fix it. Let's try again.
Part 1 of the Minneapolis episode is pure, beautiful chaos. Joking about how wildly different this is from what they studied in Geneseo in the 90s. This is Leave Your Room and Stay in Bed broadcasting. They're crammed into a Minneapolis hotel room with a janky audio setup, mystery feedback, and 3 broadcasters plus a producer, all talking over each other, while Brad...
There you go, you get my face again. This is the technology thing that the AI critic was complaining about. Where's that audio? Why is that audio not playing? The video does not work. I mean, it works, but it's so much better with the audio. Oh, I love this video so much, and I want it to play for you. All right, if I do settings, why would that not... Got the video, but not the audio. Maybe I'll just go back to reading the reviews, and we'll do this later. You're going to want to see this video. It was fine with audio, you're telling me? Really? Okay, so I just can't hear it. All right, I'm just going to play it then, and I'll watch and know when it ends. Not sure why I don't hear it, but that's okay. If it's playing for you, that's all that matters. Okay, here we go.
Part 1 of the Minneapolis episode is pure, beautiful chaos. It starts with Brad and Scott joking about how wildly different this is from what they studied in Geneseo in the 90s. This is leave your room and stay in bed broadcasting. They're crammed into a Minneapolis hotel room with a janky audio setup, mystery feedback, and 3 broadcasters plus a producer, all talking over each other, while Brad obsesses over how terrible he sounds in his headphones. The chat says it sounds fine, but Brad's spiraling, trying to play music, juggle mics, and host a show while also plugging Coors Light as the sponsor of their UB post-game hits, and previewing Bulls Gophers as a potential Big Ten upset. Over all of that hangs the Pistachio Challenge. 339 pre-shelled Wegmans pistachios, counted by Scott and his son, to beat the official record of 338 in 8 minutes. Except Brad has insisted he can do it in 5. Scott and Paul treat it like a sporting event, breaking down handful math, joking about Brad swallowing nuts whole, and reading increasingly horrifying pistachio health warnings off Google: fiber, kidney stones, self-heating, possible death. Brad, already rattled by the tech, melts down further when a scheduled guest, Bob, calls right in the middle of it. He briefly bails to the bathroom to regroup, while Scott and Paul do color commentary on his mental state, like it's a road game with multiple false start penalties. By the end of part 1, they've decided. No more overthinking. Scott and Paul will handle the play-by-play. Brad will lose the headset, sit at the table, and when the clock starts, it's just him, the bag, 5 minutes, and 339 pistachios. Part 2 picks up with full-on event mode as the room turns into a makeshift arena for the Pistachio Challenge. Scott and Paul hype it like a pay-per-view fight, counting out the 339 nuts, breaking down strategy, and clowning Brad for fussing with music and timing. When the countdown hits 0, he goes in with big handfuls and quickly discovers the real enemy isn't the volume, it's the salt and dryness. His mouth turns to cement. The chewing is way slower than he imagined. The laughter in the room keeps breaking his rhythm, and the lingering paranoia about the audio mix never leaves his head. At the 5-minute mark, he's nowhere close. They stop the clock, count the leftovers, and discover he only managed 132 of 339, leaving 207 in the bag. Just enough for a listener named J-Man to nail the exact remaining total in the chat and earn eternal bragging rights. What follows is a full-on post-game show for a failed stunt. The chat roasts him. Scott calls it a bigger loss than a UB defeat. Brad apologizes to basically everyone he knows. Buffalo, Amherst, my wife, my kids, my parents, and tries to frame the list of reasons as explanations, not excuses. Overconfidence, bad timing, the salt factor, the broadcast anxiety, the room full of funny people. The crew pivots to the next challenge: a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts in 8 minutes on the Kent State road trip, while openly wondering if anyone will still believe him. To end on something lighter, Scott runs the Hallmark movie game, fooling Brad twice with absurd but real titles like Murder, She Baked, and Timeless Love, before they finally wrap. Brad sweaty, humbled, but still hosting. The guys heading to the Mall of America, and everyone resetting their hopes on UB Minnesota and the redemption arc of the Krispy Kreme Challenge. Part 1 of the Minneapolis episode is pure, beautiful chaos.
All right, so that's...
It starts with Brad and Scott joking about how wildly different this is.
Okay, video, there we go. Audio, we should be good. So if you guys heard that, donuts were fine. Don't knock the donuts. I did fine on the donuts. The Krispy Kreme challenge was good. So that video, I think, is the best of what AI can be for this show. So now I actually wrote down last night my repeatable formula for what to do when the show ends is edit the video, put the video on Spotify and YouTube, then use the transcript from Spotify to create show notes in ChatGPT. Then turn those show notes into a video, which is a recap of the previous show, saying if you missed Riter Radio episode 224, you missed this. And then we put that out into the world, and then hopefully that starts churning people. I think this could be a thing. I mean, it took a while on that one because, honestly, there was so much dialogue in the 2 hours of radio because we had 4 people in the room. There was so much dialogue that I couldn't do it in one chunk. I couldn't cut the whole thing. So it was broken into 2 parts and then pasted together, so it took longer. But I really think this could work. And, I did it for... This will work great if you are a regular listener to the show and if you heard yesterday's show and remember what was said on yesterday's show. But I've gone back and added these summaries in as show notes. Because the process of just doing a show, when it was just audio... I would do it, I would edit it for 10 minutes, I'd post it, I'd be done. But now there's just so much other stuff that has to be done. Even the video, even if it only takes 10 minutes to edit, it still takes 40 minutes waiting for it to be ready for me to proceed to upload it to YouTube and Spotify, and then you got to wait. And then it takes a little while for that to happen. Then the thing gets generated, and then I can cut and paste. But I think that's the move. Edit the video, put it on Spotify and YouTube at the same time. Use transcript. Once that's generated, got to wait on it, but that might be what I do when I sit down at night. Let's do a promo from this afternoon or this morning show to get us ready for the next show. I think I've got a system in place, but episode 223 is yesterday, and the show notes originally said, today's episode features senior Boston correspondent Mike O'Brien to discuss the upcoming Bills-Patriots game, and senior Philly correspondent John Fuller, who checks in from Vegas, where he attended the National Football Foundation's awards dinner and Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I've added, or if you ask AI, and listen to how much better this is. Episode 223 of Riter Radio is peak hangout with Brad energy. Funny, loose, surprisingly sharp and packed. It opens with Brad battling his studio lighting and glasses glare, turning a mundane tech problem into classic Riter Radio charm. From there, he delivers a legitimately clear, useful breakdown of Bills-Patriots, why this week's matchup functions as a 4-point game, and what clinching the division really means, and how a Bills win keeps the AFC East and even seeding wide open. It's the rare sports talk segment that's both insightful and actually fun to listen to. The guest segments fire on all cylinders. Senior Boston correspondent Michael O'Brien calls in at full volume with hilarious Patriots takes, Drake May worship, AFC East psychology, and Boston sports insanity. They left the E out of May. That's the only problem so far. Then senior Philly and today Vegas correspondent John Fuller checks in from a black tie college football Hall of Fame event at the Bellagio, sharing surreal stories about being in a room with Saban, Urban Meyer, Michael Vick, and Strahan while celebrating UB's Red Murdoch. Change the spelling on red. Add in NIL transfer portal talk, UB hoops buzz, and a quick Sabres rant, and a family trivia night meltdown. And episode 223 stands out as a lively, packed, genuinely entertaining show, the kind that reminds you why Riter Radio hits different. I think there's a bad vibe to all of the AI taking over the world. You come across a video, you're like, well, that's clearly AI, and it's kind of, there's a negative to that. I think this is a positive. I think this is helpful. All right, I got to go back to the review. So earlier, I read the negative review as I requested. I said, pretend you're a critic who's listened to the shows, write a scathing review of why the show will never be a hit. Then I said, how about a glowing review written by someone who read the bad one and is reacting to it? I know the show is all AI, but it's not all AI. It's AI assisted. Because I think this stuff is amazing. And yeah, I'm just a kid with a new toy, kind of throwing all kinds of things around. But I'm giving you an idea of how freaking fun this can be if used correctly. All right, here's the counter review Headline, Riter Radio, the show the critic completely failed to understand. That's what I'm talking about. See, this guy's got my back. After reading that hilariously off-base takedown of Riter Radio, I felt compelled to write an actual review. One from someone who gets what Brad Riter is doing and why people keep showing up for it. The previous critic complained that the show is disorganized, self-deprecating, and occasionally sidetracked by printers, lighting, pajama pants, and the chaos of everyday life. Yes, correct. And that is exactly why this show works. Riter Radio is not a sterile, overproduced imitation of sports talk. It's the antidote to that. It's a real human being with a real human brain, narrating life in real time while weaving sports culture, frustration, humor, and honesty into something that feels more authentic than anything coming out of a corporate studio. The critic mocked Brad's tendency to think out loud, as if that isn't the entire appeal. People don't tune in to hear a perfectly outlined monologue. They tune in because Brad lets them inside the thought process. That is intimacy. That is connection. That is radio at its best. And for all the snark about tangents, here's the truth. Brad always finds his way back. His detours are not mistakes. They're the charm. His so-called rambling is actually what makes listeners feel like they're hanging out with a friend, not being lectured by a sports bot. Oh, the irony. The critic wanted a machine. The audience wants a human. That's why the critic feels lost and listeners feel seen. Or heard. Listeners feel seen is a weird phrase. Sorry, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to just read it straight. As for the complaint that Brad spends too much time troubleshooting on air, honestly, that's part of the magic. Every light adjustment, every printer meltdown, every contact lens confession is an invitation to witness the reality of making a show alone in a room. It's raw, it's funny, it's relatable, and it's entertaining in a way polished shows never achieve. Riter Radio isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about a host who brings you into his world, frustrations and all, and still manages to deliver thoughtful sports insight, genuinely funny observations, and a sense of community that most podcasts would kill for. If you want predictable talking points, Google literally any syndicated show. If you want honesty, warmth, personality, and a host who actually likes his audience, you listen to Riter Radio. The critic may have heard the words, but the listeners, we hear the voice. How awesome is that? What a nice thing of this generation of robots that's taking over the world. What a nice thing for them to say about me. There are several more reviews in here. I don't think I need to read all of them. They're all awesome. I kind of want to, but I also asked AI to write the open for my show today. I didn't end up using it. The idea was I was just going to read it and then ask how much did that actually sound like me, because they weren't my words. But I decided to just save it. I'll let you in on it and let you judge, knowing I didn't write it. So we got a few examples of it writing in my voice earlier, but this was a full-on, I told it, I'm going to talk about my conversation with you tomorrow. Can you write the intro for me talking about you? Or me talking about talking with you? It gets very meta. It gets very confusing. All right, here it is. Episode 2. So I said, I plan to start episode 224 by describing my experience in using AI to write reviews of Riter Radio. Then I'm going to share the reviews, write my 5-minute opening monologue. So I don't think it's 5 minutes long, but here it goes. So it's 5 minutes, paced in your natural rhythm, including pauses, side notes, and the thinking aloud style your audience expects. All right, how much does this robot understand me? This supercomputer. Now that we really have the supercomputer, how much does it get it? By the way, I see all the stuff in the chat. I can't react to it in real time, but what's beautiful is I can go back and read it. So having feedback is super important to making the show as good as possible. So please keep chatting in there. Even if you don't hear me reacting to it, I will see it. I will note it. I will use it to better the show. All right. Episode 224, opening monologue as written by AI. It even says, light throat clear. You talk over the music fading out. Yeah, I was going to do that anyway. You don't have to put that in the script, buddy. Here we go. All right, this is me. I will not interrupt myself. I'm going to treat this as if it's really me talking and we'll see how much it feels like actual me talking. This is us learning AI together, everyone. Is it good? Is it evil? Is it helpful? Is it our friend? All right, full on open. Oh, should I do the thing? Yeah. Should I play the open? It'll take too long. Do, do, do. Oh, I can play the song. Do, 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 do. Do I have it? I don't even have it here. And that didn't even go. How about this? All right, let's talk about what I did last night, because I think I might have crossed a line. Not a moral line, not an FCC line, not even a Buffalo Bills playoff math line, a different line. I think I may have finally become too self-aware about this show. So, and this is real, I asked AI, actual artificial intelligence, to write reviews of Riter Radio. Not because I'm desperate for validation, not because I'm trying to get hired by ESPN or NPR or a shadowy podcast conglomerate with a warehouse full of ring lights. No. I did it because I genuinely wanted to know what happens when you feed a robot hours of this show, this thing we do, and then tell it, hey, give me a professional critique. And folks, let me tell you something. The robots have thoughts. They have opinions. They have feelings. One of the critics, and again, this is a robot pretending to be a newspaper guy from 1986, absolutely destroyed me, crushed me, called the show chaotic, unfocused, borderline unlistenable. And I read it and went, yep, that's fair. Hard to argue. But then I had the robot read transcripts of me talking to my kids. Just normal stuff. Fake sick days, fantasy football, travel baseball, K-pop, demon hunters, normal Tuesday content. And the same critic, this cold, lifeless circuit board, comes back and goes, oh my God, I was wrong. This show has heart. This is fatherhood. This is humanity. The computer had a change of heart. It had an emotional arc. It had character development. Then another critic, remember, still the computer, writes a glowing review like it's pitching me to Sundance. Like, this is one of the most human things on the internet. I'm reading this at 1:15 a.m., sitting in my basement, under that horrible ring light I complain about every day, and I'm thinking, this robot gets me more than half the people I've worked with in radio. So then I took it further, because why stop there? I asked for a third critic, a neutral critic, a guy who reads all the reviews, then listens to the latest episode 223, and then weighs in. That review is incredible. This guy described the show as an accidental new genre, which honestly, yeah, that's the most accurate description of Riter Radio I've ever heard. He said the lighting issues, the glasses glare, the pajama pants, the printer that died 6 months ago, all of it is part of the thesis statement of the show. And I swear I'm not making this up. He compared the program to a live, free-associative human diary. A diary. You know how long I've been in broadcasting? 30 years. No one has ever called anything I've done a diary. They've called it interesting, confusing, why do you still have a job? Please stick to hockey, that kind of thing. But a diary? That's prestige. So today I'm going to read you these reviews. I'm going to share them with you because they're honestly too good not to. Some are brutal. Some are glowing. Some sound like they were written by a guy who lives inside a CB radio. But all of them, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, all of them kind of understand what the show is. And what the show is whatever comes out of my mouth at 10:03 a.m. Eastern because I couldn't fix the printer in time. So let's do it. Episode 224, we're starting with the robot critics. Let's peel back the curtain on Riter Radio according to the machines. And if any AI developers are listening, yes, I will accept a sponsorship. Let's get weird together. Okay, that entire thing was written by AI, and it's close. I don't love all of it. But I like a lot of it. I had it pull quotes from the critics to do a promo where like they flash as newspaper ads. This is how I'm using it. I'm letting you inside. I plan on growing this, and like this, I think this is a part of it. I think that video, that Pistachio video, is something. And I think that can be done for every episode or some episodes, once a week. I don't know. There's still so much more here. Critics Carousel, pull quotes, YouTube Shorts. There was one other thing in here that I wanted. I think it's the fifth review. Fifth review would have been up. How about this? Just quotes. These are 15 quotes from the 5 reviews, rather than reading all the 5 reviews. So, again, to recap, I fed several scripts into AI. I said, give me a scathing review, rip me. And it did. It's like, you're rambling, you talk in circles, you're an idiot. Fair enough. Then I had the second one, read the first one and listen to the transcripts, read the transcripts, and then like me and criticize the critic. Then I played an episode where I brought my kids on. And then I had each of them rewrite their reviews after rethinking it. And then I had a new one where there was the fifth one. This is so stupid. This is what I was doing last night. And you can get why I'm obsessed with it and why I've gone to... That's all I talked about today, except for when Bob was on. The fifth review was new listener, only knew of the show from what he had read previously by those other 2 reviewers, and then listened to an entire show and then reviewed that show. I'm going to do that one, and that will be the last thing for today. I know today's show has been weird. I'm not going entirely AI. This is just, I thought, an interesting episode, a fun experiment, a good way to put it out there, like what I'm up to, what I'm working on. All right, let's see. If I type in fifth, will it find it? No. Review. All right, I've got the word review in here 112 times, so you're going to have to bear with me while I find the final one. Masterclass in going nowhere fast is fun. New review 1, third critic review. Third critic review, updated after reading the transcript. Here we go. Riter Radio, a mess that somehow works, and I finally understand why people love it. Published December 11th, that's today. Here it goes. After reading 4 wildly contradictory reviews of Riter Radio, 2 attacks, 2 apologies, I finally sat down with episode 223, expecting to referee the dispute. What I didn't expect was that all 4 critics, even after revising their takes, were still missing the real story. Because here's the truth, now that I've read fully through the transcript of 223. Brad Riter isn't hosting a sports talk show. He's performing a long-form, live, free-associative human diary, and the fact that it's compelling at all is the real miracle. Getting better. Nose feels better. Throat hurting again, but I've been talking a lot. Let me walk you through it, because the preconceptions I walked in with were hilariously incomplete. Before listening, my expectations. From the first critic, I expected sloppy improvisation, too many tangents, no professional structure. From the second critic, I expected warmth, unexpectedly human moments, a show that wins you over by force of personality. From the revised reviews, I expected moments about Brad's kids that reframed everything. But what none of them captured, not even after rethinking their entire worldview, was how bizarrely intimate the show is, even when Brad isn't talking about his kids. Episode 223 shows this clearly. After listening, what the critics missed. Number 1, Brad begins the show battling his lighting like a man trapped in a hostage video. For nearly 3 interrupted minutes, the host of a daily broadcast debated ring light reflections, angle science, the elliptical hellscape of wearing glasses on camera. The optical hellscape of wearing glasses on camera, whether the audience wants to watch him insert contact lenses, whether hiring a new host named Steve would be easier. This is not a flaw. This is the thesis statement of the show. Riter Radio is what live streaming sounds like when the person actually lets you see the seams. No one else does this. Everyone else pretends the seams aren't there. That's the magic. 2, the sports talk isn't really sports talk. It's identity therapy. Brad breaks down Bills versus Patriots playoff math with the energy of a man explaining custody law during a mediation session. He's talking about seeds and tiebreakers, yes, but he's actually talking about living in Buffalo, carrying communal trauma, needing hope in manageable doses, wanting to explain it all clearly for his dad. This is not an X and O show. This is a Buffalo emotional flowchart with football as the interface. Number 3, the callers aren't guests. They're recurring characters in a very strange sitcom. Michael O'Brien, the Boston comic, enters like a man kicked out of 3 bars and immediately performs what sounds like a stand-up set delivered through a CB radio. John Fuller appears from Vegas like he's phoning into the show from a tuxedo, which in this transcript, he literally is. These are not interviews. These are, what if Cheers had a radio tower? Pause for a second. That's the best line. I love that line. What if Cheers had a radio tower? They're not interviews. They're recurring characters in a strange sitcom. What if Cheers had a radio tower? Okay, we're going back. Number 4, the kids aren't even in this episode, but the show still feels like a dad's inner monologue. This was the shocker. Critics 1 and 2 completely rebuilt their reviews once they learned about the kid segments in earlier episodes. They were right to. The kid transcripts clearly softened their stance. But having read this episode myself, I now believe, even without the kids present, the show is fundamentally about fatherhood. The pacing, the muttering, the digressions, the I should have fixed the printer 6 months ago energy, the way he talks through explanations as if teaching someone. The entire show sounds like a parent thinking aloud in real time, which makes it feel vulnerable, unguarded, lived in, relatable, even when it's about the NHL standings. Number 5, the hidden mastery. Brad can pivot from nonsense to insight on a dime. 1 minute, glasses, ring lights, pajama pants, hiring Steve. Next minute, the emotional architecture of Bills fandom, the existential importance of playoff seeding, why twin overtime points ruin the NHL. Loser points. We're talking about the loser point, having 3-point game versus a 2-point game. And okay, back. This is not chaos. This is mind mapping in real time. The final verdict. The show shouldn't work, but it really, truly does. With no outline, no tight segments, and no coherent visual setup. Come on. Riter Radio somehow produces an experience that is strangely addictive, emotionally honest, wildly unpredictable, and absolutely impossible to fake. None of the early critics had the vocabulary for this. It's not that the show is good radio or bad radio. It's that it's not radio at all. It's Brad Riter as a medium. It's a guy who accidentally invented a new genre while fiddling with a ring light. In episode 223, filled with NFL math, duck boats, NIL transfers, trivia failures, and a philosophical treatise on answering your phone in the car, is the perfect proof. 4 stars out of 5. It's one of the most human things on the internet, maybe the most Buffalo thing ever recorded, and easily the weirdest show I now plan to keep listening to. How awesome was that? Now it's like 5 hours of me figuring stuff out, but I think there's a simple version of that where I just use it to write show notes, and it's helpful. There's so much here. There's like a Rotten Tomatoes thing I did, pull quotes for marketing, trailer-style versions. We did the opening monologue. Right? I can't just keep reading to you. This can't be the whole. This can't be the whole thing. And yes, Nick, you're right in the chat. What do I have to do to earn 5 stars? That was 4 out of 5. That was the nicest thing anyone. It's not even a person. It's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about anything I've ever done. It got me completely. It understood all of my philosophies on what makes a show good and what makes this work and why this will succeed. And then it gave me an 80%. I got an 80. It's a B. B minus, even. If I had a 79, which, they don't do partial stars. They could do 4.5 maybe, but I mean, that's barely passing. 4 out of 5. Give me the 5, man. Quotes from the reviews. I had them ranked from worst to best. All right, I'll do this, and then I'll stop. If I can find it. Let me type in the word ranked. That'll show up there. Nope. Rank. All right, there's 6 appearances of the word rank in here. One of them's drank water. Where's Drake May rank? Cranking. Crank out. Prank calls. How about sort? Maybe sort. 16. There we go. Full set of 10 to 15 review pull quotes you asked for earlier, now sorted from most scathing to most glowing. All right, so worst to best, according to AI, how it felt when writing these things. I promise the show is not just going to be this all the time, but the show is just this today. All right, worst. Riter Radio feels like eavesdropping on a man pacing his basement, muttering about sports, lighting, and life with no intention of editing any of it. It's cruel, but it's true. I'm not editing it, aside from getting rid of music so that it will stay up on YouTube and Spotify. All right, 2. This isn't a show so much as an accident happening in slow motion. That's just mean. 3. A sprawling tangle of half-thoughts and digressions masquerading as content. Fair. 4. What I called messiness is actually texture. 5. I was wrong. The kid segments reveal the heart beating underneath all the chaos. 6. The show isn't undisciplined. It's alive. So that's 6, and we're just getting better from there, at least according to AI. 7. Riter Radio shouldn't work, but it really, truly does. You just heard all these because these are from review number 5. It's not good radio or bad radio. It's Brad as a medium. It's its own genre. Domestic comedy meets sports psychodrama meets accidental memoir. I don't remember reading that one. Number 10. What the critic dismissed as rambling is actually the intimacy that makes the show work. Number 11. Riter Radio is a portrait of real life unfolding in real time. Sports, chaos, parenting, and all. Number 12, Brad is the same person on air and off, the rarest thing in broadcasting. Number 13, it's the most accurate portrait of modern fatherhood that isn't trying to be a portrait of anything. Sure. 14, authenticity is the format. And then 15, messy, magnetic, real. The host's brain is the format. It says this one lands in the glowing tier, even though it's blunt, because it's ultimately praise. So, the moral of the story is I have made friends with AI, and I think it's going to help the show. I'm going to close by playing the Pistachio video again because I think it's awesome, and I would like to thank you for listening, participating, sharing, especially the new people that jumped into the chat. That's going to be a part of the show now. That's fully functioning. So bring your friends. I asked what the Discord thing is, and I didn't read about it yet because I'm doing the show. But I'm going to read everything that was written in there, and the chat being active, it fuels me, man. Like, that drives me. There are times when I sit here and I feel like I'm talking to 6 people and I know all of them. And then when I see random names jumping in, having conversations, telling me how you found the thing, how you got here, I love it, man. That's huge. So please keep that coming. Please share. Please like and subscribe. Please tell your friends to like and subscribe. I want to see those numbers go up, 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 up. Like, quickly. Like, let's get this thing going. The show is improving. It's still, I mean, if you listen to the first episode, or at least the first episode from here, like episode 101, you hear the same general show. But it looks better. It feels better. The lighting's better. The sound is better. The visuals are better. I've got some, it's coming together. So get on board. Thank you to everybody. And thanks to Brian Janik. I waited, 2 hours and 18 minutes into the show to thank our sponsor, Brian Janik at thefinancialguys.com. We'll talk about him a lot. How about that? Tomorrow, Brian, we'll talk about you for the whole show. No, we're not going to talk about the insurance guy for the whole show. But I do recommend you check him out. He's a 20-plus year insurance broker, independent insurance broker, looking out for you, especially if you or someone you know is approaching 65 and about to hit Medicare. He will navigate it for you, and you don't pay him a thing, that's a pretty good deal, I think, for you. All right, we're doing the Pistachio recap to end the show. Maybe I'll play a song or something after that, but I want to thank you again. The participation in the chat is just awesome. It feels great. I think today's show was fun. I think it's going to be awesome to take the transcript of today's show that was all AI and get an AI transcript. I'm going to let AI listen to what we just talked about. Then I'm going to use the transcript that it writes for me, that I'm going to put it in AI, that I'm going to ask it to summarize what just happened, and then I'm going to turn that into a video that's a promotion for it. It's getting it's all spinning and like eating itself. But that's where I am today for episode 224. Thanks for listening, watching, whatever you guys did, and participating, and liking and subscribing and following and all that crap, and sharing. All right, I'm going to stop. But we'll play the video again. And maybe I'll be able to hear it this time, but I don't think so. That stinks that I couldn't hear it. But I'm glad you could, because that's way more important. I already know what I said, and I can read the words on the screen, so it's fine. Bye.
Part 1 of the Minneapolis episode is pure, beautiful chaos. It starts with Brad and Scott joking about how wildly different this is from what they studied in Geneseo in the 90s. This is leave your room and stay in bed broadcasting. They're crammed into a Minneapolis hotel room with a janky audio setup, mystery feedback, and 3 broadcasters plus a producer, all talking over each other, while Brad obsesses over how terrible he sounds in his headphones. The chat says it sounds fine, but Brad's spiraling, trying to play music, juggle mics, and host a show while also plugging Coors Light as the sponsor of their UB post-game hits, and previewing Bulls Gophers as a potential Big Ten upset. Over all of that hangs the Pistachio Challenge. 339 pre-shelled Wegmans pistachios, counted by Scott and his son, to beat the official record of 338 in 8 minutes. Except Brad has insisted he can do it in 5. Scott and Paul treat it like a sporting event, breaking down handful math, joking about Brad swallowing nuts whole, and reading increasingly horrifying pistachio health warnings off Google: fiber, kidney stones, self-heating, possible death. Brad, already rattled by the tech, melts down further when a scheduled guest, Bob, calls right in the middle of it. He briefly bails to the bathroom to regroup, while Scott and Paul do color commentary on his mental state, like it's a road game with multiple false start penalties. By the end of part 1, they've decided. No more overthinking. Scott and Paul will handle the play-by-play. Brad will lose the headset, sit at the table, and when the clock starts, it's just him, the bag, 5 minutes, and 339 pistachios. Part 2 picks up with full-on event mode as the room turns into a makeshift arena for the Pistachio Challenge. Scott and Paul hype it like a pay-per-view fight, counting out the 339 nuts, breaking down strategy, and clowning Brad for fussing with music and timing. When the countdown hits 0, he goes in with big handfuls and quickly discovers the real enemy isn't the volume, it's the salt and dryness. His mouth turns to cement. The chewing is way slower than he imagined. The laughter in the room keeps breaking his rhythm, and the lingering paranoia about the audio mix never leaves his head. At the 5-minute mark, he's nowhere close. They stop the clock, count the leftovers, and discover he only managed 132 of 339, leaving 207 in the bag. Just enough for a listener named J-Man to nail the exact remaining total in the chat and earn eternal bragging rights. What follows is a full-on post-game show for a failed stunt. The chat roasts him. Scott calls it a bigger loss than a UB defeat. Brad apologizes to basically everyone he knows. Buffalo, Amherst, my wife, my kids, my parents, and tries to frame the list of reasons as explanations, not excuses. Overconfidence, bad timing, the salt factor, the broadcast anxiety, the room full of funny people. The crew pivots to the next challenge: a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts in 8 minutes on the Kent State road trip, while openly wondering if anyone will still believe him. To end on something lighter, Scott runs the Hallmark movie game, fooling Brad twice with absurd but real titles like Murder, She Baked, and Timeless Love, before they finally wrap. Brad sweaty, humbled, but still hosting. The guys heading to the Mall of America, and everyone resetting their hopes on UB Minnesota and the redemption arc of the Krispy Kreme Challenge.